Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace. The Prince of Darkness, Lucifer, the Dark Lord of the Underworld. Satan has many names and has been portrayed countless different ways in modern media. In South Park, Satan has been a part of the show since literally season 1, but he's actually really only made a handful of appearances over the years. Out of the 300 plus episodes, Satan has a substantial role in 10 of them, and of course a major role in the movie South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. And South Park actually takes a pretty unique approach in their portrayal of Satan as well. He's not just some demonic presence with evil motivations, he's actually portrayed with substance. They give him his own fears and insecurities, his own hopes and dreams. Satan's story in South Park contains multiple profoundly satisfying arcs, as well as a majorly exciting and cinematic ending. An ending that kind of leaves you saying, wow, what a good guy. So join me as we explore Satan according to South Park, or how Satan got his groove back. But before we get started, let's talk about today's video sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build your online presence, run your business, or make a personal website. It's seriously so user-friendly. I threw this cool page together pretty quickly and it was really easy to use, and there are so many different customization options. My website looks professional and it matches the aesthetic of my brand and YouTube channel, highlighting some of my favorite video essays I've worked on, as well as some of the recent productions I've worked on professionally. There's links to my work, contact info. I seriously can't express how easy Squarespace is to use. Head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to push the website public, use my link, squarespace.com/Johnny2Cellos, to save 10% off your purchase of a website or domain. So before we get into his individual stories, let's talk a bit about the lore of Satan in South Park. We learn that his backstory is very much like the typical Lucifer backstory we've all heard. He was cast down from heaven by God into the depths of hell, where he now rules. Satan is shown to have a few different powers. He can shoot fire, teleport a couple of different ways, and even possess humans. Satan also actually appears to be able to move between heaven and hell at will, as we've seen him go back to heaven to speak with God. It also seems that except under certain conditions, Satan cannot freely walk on Earth. Though there are exceptions, some of which involve ancient prophecies that foretell of his arrival on Earth.
When the blood of these Canadians touches American soil, it will be our time to rise.
Though he can seemingly be summoned as well, sometimes simply from humans praying, and other times through more involved rituals. And I guess he was also somehow capable of going up to Earth to throw a massive Halloween Sweet 16. He's also on one occasion shown to be actively at war with heaven, so there does seem to be some sort of ongoing spiritual conflict between heaven and hell. But speaking of hell, it isn't exactly portrayed as the eternal damnation that you might expect. It's more of just like a fiery neighborhood. Sure, torturous things can and do happen to some people. When you die in hell, you're basically just sent back the following day, but people largely just go about living their lives. Satan throws luau's and parties with hell's residents.
Oh, we going into the hooky low, the hooky low.
They even celebrate Christmas down there.
The snow is falling and all is well, it's Christmas time in hell.
At one point, Satan doesn't even seem to live in any sort of satanic castle or be living it up compared to other residents. He just shares an apartment with his partner Chris on the west side. Although as the series goes on, that does seem to change, but it also changes alongside Satan, so we'll touch on it later. Because ultimately, the satanic lore in South Park takes a backseat to the character conflict. And somehow the show managed to give Satan some of the most robust character arcs in the show. Satan's first appearance is not particularly substantial, but it's definitely funny. And we also meet his son Damien, who outside of this episode seems to have no further relationship with his father. But Satan's first appearance boils down to a pretty funny gambling scheme. Satan is set to fight Jesus in a boxing match.
You're gonna fight Satan?
This fight has been ordained since the beginning.
But after seeing how jacked Satan is, the entire town of South Park bets against Jesus in the match. Well, except for one person, Satan, who throws the fight and wins himself a hefty sum.
Now I will take all your hard-earned money and return to hell a much richer prince of darkness and buy some real estate.
A pretty funny and simple way for Satan to exact his will upon the people of South Park. But Satan's first seriously substantial story starts with the death of Saddam Hussein. in the South Park universe, not in real life. They killed him in the show quite a bit before he died IRL. In season 2's The Mexican Staring Frog of Sri Lanka, we see that Satan and Saddam have formed a partnership in hell, a very short tease but important one that comes into play majorly in South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. In fact, I would argue that Satan actually has the most prominent arc of any character in the film, and it's remarkably effective too. If you're familiar with musicals, there's something called an I Want song. This is where the protagonist sings about what it is they desire most in the story. Like Like in The Little Mermaid, it's Ariel singing Part of Your World, or in Moana, it's How Far I'll Go, or if we want to talk Stone and Parker, Book of Mormon's You and Me, but mostly me. Well, in South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, they actually give the I Want song to Satan himself in the form of Up There, which might be the best damn song in the whole movie. And that's saying a lot because every single one is a banger. But the South Park movie does an excellent job giving Satan a real conflict. As an ancient prophecy comes to fruition on Earth that will allow Satan and his armies to invade Earth, Satan is actually dealing with some serious personal issues. The story shows pretty explicitly that Satan's partner, Saddam Hussein, is abusive. Throughout the story, Saddam is very controlling of Satan's actions and undermines everything Satan does. He's basically shown to be using Satan to gain power and control. And then when Satan calls him out, Saddam cries that he can change.
But I can change, I can change. I can learn to keep my promises, I swear it.
This is classic abuser behavior. He pretends as though he can and will change for Satan, but in the end, he of course doesn't. And Satan himself has his own dreams, which are told through the I Want song Up There.
They say I don't belong. I must stay below alone.
Satan actually wants to be up on Earth and experience the freedom and safety that the world has to offer. But I think one repeated line is actually really important.
I could be safe and live without a care up there.
I can be safe and live without a care. While I do think that being on Earth is an attractive idea for Satan, I think a lot of this is actually Satan's subconscious desire to escape his abusive relationship. He not only feels trapped in hell, but in his relationship with Saddam. And this is ultimately illustrated by the end of the film. Satan witnesses Saddam using the same technique he used on him.
Hi, buddy. I know I was mean before, but don't worry, I can change.
He recognizes that Saddam is lying and manipulating, and with Kenny's encouragement, Satan throws Saddam into the pits of hell, killing him. For the encouragement, he grants Kenny one wish, and Kenny wishes for everything to go back to how it was before Satan came to Earth. Satan's willingness to grant this wish shows a couple of things. One, that Satan is kind of a good guy. He rewards Kenny for giving him genuine help and encouragement. And two, that Satan's desire to be on Earth may have been escapism after all. Now that Saddam is dead, Satan has no qualms going back to live in hell. He's no longer trapped in his abusive relationship. He can be safe and live without a care down there. It's a really sweet and effective arc, and I really love that they gave so much substance to the quote-unquote antagonist of the film, though it seems the real antagonist was Saddam and Sheila. But the story of Satan and Saddam wasn't actually over because South Park managed to give Satan a second, equally impressive arc in a pair of season 4 episodes, and they directly follow up the film. Satan is now seeing a new guy named Chris, and the two have moved in together on the west side. Chris is, frankly, the exact opposite of Saddam. He's completely caring and understanding to the point where he nearly has no spine of his own. Almost as though Satan overcompensated when picking his new partner. He went in the complete opposite direction. And things seem to be going mostly well with Chris, but unfortunately, this is when you-know-who shows up.
Hello, Satan.
Now you might be asking, but how? Satan killed him.
Where was I gonna go, Detroit?
The genius of this story is how it once again helps Satan find his own agency. Saddam's reemergence in Satan's life creates a serious conflict in Satan. He cannot deny his serious attraction to Saddam, but he knows how bad Saddam is for him. He also knows how good Chris is for him, but doesn't find himself particularly attracted to Chris. Satan ends up cheating on Chris with Saddam, and Saddam even kills Chris, although Chris shows right back up in hell because...
Yeah, well, where was I gonna go? Detroit?
The end of this episode is honestly brilliant, because who the hell does Satan go to for advice? That's right, his oldest friend, God himself. Satan has a genuine heart-to-heart about his relationships with Chris and Saddam to God, and gets the exact advice that he needs.
What the hell happened to you? Huh? You got kicked out of here for being a headstrong rebel. And now you're a whiny little bitch.
And honestly, God was right. Satan was completely dependent on his relationships to both Chris and Saddam. He could only see his own self-worth through those relationships. But Satan is the literal lord of the underworld. He was a rebellious badass who was cast down from heaven, yet here he is being completely whipped by two shitty dudes. And so, Satan gets his groove back.
No, I'm not going on a walk. You're a pussy, Chris, and you drive me crazy. Go away.
He breaks up with Chris, and he sends Saddam to heaven so that he doesn't have to deal with him ever again. Hail Satan. And after this, we actually start to see Satan embrace his role as the Prince of Darkness. Instead of relying on relationships, he starts to use trusted advisors who help him in his various evil schemes. And while he fails in his attack on heaven thanks to Kenny's incredible PSP abilities, Satan starts to embrace himself a little more.
Patience, my lord.
No, Kevin, that's it. I'm breaking up with you.
maybe to a fault. On Halloween 2006, Satan throws a huge party in his own honor called Hell on Earth 2006. And while this should have been just an incredible bash to celebrate Halloween with his friends, Satan makes it all about himself. He gets way too caught up in the spectacle and grandeur of the party, and which celebs are gonna join in.
This is VIP. Don't just let anybody into my VIP area, okay?
Satan basically just acts like a stuck-up brat, especially when he gets his Acura cake instead of a Ferrari cake. But in the end, he sees the error of his ways, and he goes through a pretty significant change that would follow him through to his final episode.
Everybody, I'm sorry. This party is for you. It's for all of you who make my life so special.
He realizes that this never should have been about him. And interestingly, in the remainder of Satan's appearances on South Park, he pretty much just shows up to help people. Like, Satan is low-key just a great guy after this. In Freemium Isn't Free, Stan is addicted to a freemium game. He prays for help from his addiction, and who shows up?
You have summoned the Prince of Temptation.
But Satan doesn't tempt Stan. He actually just sits him down and explains his addictions to him in a really kind and calm manner, like a genuine friend.
But because humans have progressed and now have access to all the shit they want whenever they want it, it's easy for them to overdo and have dopamine problems.
And then when Satan learns what Stan's addiction actually is, he possesses Stan and goes on a vendetta to put an end to freemium gaming. He even takes on and defeats the Canadian devil in the process. And this wasn't even the last time we would see Satan do something for the good of mankind. In Time to Get Cereal, the kids in Al Gore are desperately searching for a way to stop Man-Bear-Pig, and so they hold an ancient ritual to summon Satan once again.
Who hath summoned me to this realm?
Satan literally immediately starts to help the kids in Al Gore research how they can stop Man-Bear-Pig. Like, he doesn't even make any sort of deal with the devil or anything, he just helps them. This sort of just became Satan's thing late in the series. He shows up to help people. Over the course of these two Man-Bear-Pig-centric episodes, they discover that killing MVP won't be easy since only an immortal can kill an immortal. I guess this is something we actually technically learned back in the Coon and Friends trilogy. Damn, we've really seen a lot of immortal beings in South Park. Should I do a video on them? That might be fun. Comment below if you want to see it. Anyways, through this discovery that only an immortal being can kill MVP, we see something shockingly selfless from Satan. He's pretty easily convinced to fight Man-Bear-Pig himself.
I must admit, people up here on Earth have been doing a lot of my work for me lately. Maybe it is time I did something for them.
Satan, once again, is setting out to help the people of Earth. This is basically his MO after Hell on Earth 2006. It's pretty wild. And the epic battle begins. Satan versus Man-Bear-Pig. Unfortunately, Satan falls to the ancient being.
I just wish I could have helped you. Oh God, it hurts.
But we've just spent the last few minutes breaking down how Satan has become a genuinely good and helpful guy over the course of South Park, so I'm sure you can guess what happened next. Satan literally ascends to heaven, the ultimate end for the Prince of Darkness, and what a journey. Over the course of South Park history, Satan was cast down from heaven, became a pretty simple con man, got stuck in a terribly abusive relationship with a former dictator, overcame his insecurities in 2 unhealthy relationships, threw a tantrum at his Sweet 16, stopped freemium games from creating poverty, and fought his damnedest to stop Man-Bear-Pig from destroying the world, only to be struck down and sent back up to the very place that cast him aside in the first place. Wow. South Park's version of Satan is honestly pretty awesome. I think the character can challenge our notions of good and evil, and if I can quote the man himself for a minute, without evil, there can be no good. So it must be good to be evil sometimes. Hail Satan. Thanks for tuning into the South Park Satan Breakdown. Also, if you didn't know, I started a podcast called Cartoons That Curse with my friend Toonrific Tariq. We cover our favorite animated series one season at a time, and we'll probably cover South Park eventually. As always, comment what kind of videos you want to see from me, and stay tuned for more. Peace.
Johnny! Two